Hey folks, Martin Vaver here, Galaxy Sailor Productions. Got another episode for you. This week's going to be a little bit different. I had a really amazing film experience about a week and a half ago, and I really wanted to share it with you, and hopefully also the message that I got out of this whole thing. The short version of how this all started is that I've got a buddy by the name of Kyle Yount. He's a big-time hardcore Godzilla fan, and he's really into kaiju tokusatsu films, aka rubber-suited monsters. So a lot of the classic Godzilla, Gamera films, those kind of things. He has a really huge library of these films, and he also conducts a podcast which is called the Kaiju Cast. About 2 or 3 times a month, we all get together, talk about Godzilla films, what we like, what we don't like, we watch one, we've done a few other things. He's always talking about news, he updates people on the films and the stories and what's going on. He and I also just completed a documentary about the 60 years of Godzilla and its influence in Japan called Hail to the King, 60 Years of Destruction. So on our monthly film, we just watched one this last week called Pulgasari. Now I bring this film up because of the tremendous story that happens behind the scenes of it. Pulgasari is a North Korean monster film, and it's basically like a giant kind of a bull minotaur rubber-suited thing. The body's made of iron, it's able to take a lot of hits, it's pretty impervious to things. The story is all about this village that's being oppressed by this king in the kingdom. One of the villagers, right before he's killed by the king, rises Pulgasari up. This little monster kind of grows throughout part of the film and turns into this giant savior for the entire village, and by the end, the villagers have to kill this thing. Now, if you were to watch this movie, you would probably see lots of flaws in it. It's got all sorts of kind of issues with it. It actually looks like it was filmed in about 1965, but it's really from 1985. The story is jumpy, it's incomplete, it doesn't really fill in a lot of good gaps in it. The monster is actually pretty cool, and they do a lot of practical special effects work with the suit and having the monster march through a couple of different buildings and things that they break down. So a pretty standard rubber-suited Godzilla-style monster film. The amazing thing about this film is actually how it all came to be. So in 1979, a South Korean director by the name of Shin Son-uk was abducted by North Korea. He was brought north of the border and was forced by a very young Kim Jong-il to begin making propaganda films. At the time, Kim Jong-il was running the intelligence services, but he was a huge film fan, amassing somewhere in the neighborhood of 15,000 films. So this director is kidnapped in South Korea, along with his wife, who is an actress, and forced to make films for several years. In 1985, coming off of the Toho film Godzilla Returns, a number of people that worked for the studio were told that they were going off to go and make a film in China. So they all boarded a plane, and when they got off of that plane, they were actually in North Korea. Now, they were never technically kidnapped by the North Korean government, or so they would say, but they were held there by the protection of the North Korean military. And over the next few months, they created the film Pulgasari. So the film gets made, it gets its distribution across North Korea, and it serves as a propaganda film. The interesting part about it is that it's actually a very subversive film, and if you were to read into it, you could see that this person was not actually trying to make propaganda toward North Korea, but was really subverting the whole dominant idea that the whole country ran as a paradigm. What's even more interesting is that later, the director and his wife were able to escape North Korea and find refuge in the United States, later on becoming a film director in the US before passing away in 2006. You may have actually heard of one of his American films, Three Ninjas. Now here's what is amazing to me. This man was a director in South Korea. He gets abducted, forced to make these propaganda films, figures out how to escape, comes to the United States, and is able to start his career over again, really for a third time, and begins to make films again before he passes away. So what's my excuse? What's your excuse? Thank you so much for watching this episode. Make sure to check out everything down below for the website, Facebook, and Twitter. Again, if you would like to come on this and be a guest on the show, I would love to have you on here. Feel free to leave any kind of comments that you have for another episode or about this episode in all of the comment sections down below. I appreciate your time in this, and hopefully I will see you on the next one.